Why has this been left out of all our school books? Oh, and by the way, there was a school primer printed in the 1840s to teach 8th grade students, because back in those days, if you made it to 8th grade, you were educated. Very few people went on to high school and college. So it was a 7th and 8th grade primer, and that was published from the 1841 till the late 1850s. And that's a whole story of how that book was suddenly put into not being published and taken out of the schools during the Civil War. And during the American Civil War, 1860 to 1865, then Lincoln has this document on his desk, and he's scribbling on it, and this is in the American Archives, but you're going to have to dig to find it. They're pushing him to pass this anti-slavery involuntary servitude document, and he's not sure, and he makes a notation. This would be the 14th Amendment. Abe Lincoln is assassinated. Then it's changed and it's made the 13th Amendment. But here's a little, if you don't know this, one of the western states, which is way out west like Colorado, Wyoming, right about that time, they published both 13th Amendments in their books. I forget if it was 1876 or 1868. Back around, they were just going from pre-statehood to statehood, and they published their first volume, and they included both 13th Amendments. And then, after that, no more original 13th Amendment. Never was it repealed. Therefore, you don't have to be an attorney to realize it's still the law. So every attorney, every judge, whether a federal judge, state judge, municipal judge, whoever joined the bar, he became incapable because he lost his citizenship. And unless he reapplied to gain his citizenship again, he's holding office illegally. And today, almost half of Congress are illegal office holders because they also were members of the bar or still members of the bar. And just look at all the terrible performance we had with attorneys of the bar. Slick Willie Clinton. Oh gosh, I did not have sex with that woman or that woman or that woman or that woman. He was lying. Never punished. He was an attorney. His wife Hillary, who's running right now, is an attorney. That means she had to be a member of a bar. And here's a clue.
Obama.
Here's a clue. Yeah, I think Obama's an attorney, but I don't think they ever let him join the bar. I don't think he ever got to join the bar.
His wife, I think, are both attorneys.
They're both attorneys, but I think they denied Obama Illinois bar certification because he refused to have a background check. Because the background check would have shown Obama was not even born in Hawaii. He was actually born in Kenya. But it doesn't matter where he was born because his father wasn't a citizen. Obama Sr. wasn't a citizen. And under the Constitution, and I went into great detail with Orly Tates on this, and she explained it very well. She has all the documents. Both your parents must be citizens of the U.S. at the time you're born in order for you to succeed to the office of the presidency. That means you can't be vice president, you can't be Speaker of the House, you can't be president. If both your parents, and this is why Romney had no right to run for president either, because his father was a Mexican citizen, not a U.S. citizen at the time Mitt Romney was born. And they slipped that by us, and nobody caught. I caught it and talked about it back then on my show. But now they got Obama, who it's clearly his father. Now, some people might say, well, what about McCain? McCain gets a pass because McCain was born in Panama, but his father was an admiral, and he was on duty. And he was in an American jurisdiction of Panama. And that issue was actually chewed out in a committee of Congress. And after they looked at it very carefully, they said, yeah, McCain can run. But Obama is an illegal, unlawful president, but so is everybody else who ever joined the bar. They're all criminals. We need a We the People grand jury and a We the People militia. And they not just need to start, in my opinion, they need to start arresting all the people who violated this original 13th Amendment, even if they're nice guys, which I'm sure some of the judges are. I knew at least one congressman Who was? His name was Ron Paul, but he wasn't an attorney. He was a baby doctor. Anyway, we're digressing. Jackie and Mr. Tanner finished their presentation because this is really important stuff. Many of you are out there now have either been foreclosed and you're in a motel right now watching this somewhere in Santa Maria or a friend's house. What Roger wants to tell you is you can still get your house back or the value of, right, Roger?
It appears if they follow the law that there is no remedy that cannot be produced, being that fraud has no
statute of
limitation or gate that's going to stop you from going back. It's been suggested that this litigation could take years and years and years and years, and where the end is gone, because the litigation or the foreclosures, the way they have been, the way the Federal Reserve has worked with the mortgages and deeds of trust, go back probably 100 years. After the Glass-Steagall Act, the industry just went crazy because they weren't held accountable for what they were doing. And one thing I might ask, sir, is that when you brought up about the 13th Amendment, I don't know it means anything, but the War of 1812, I think Brits burn about every library and courthouse in the United States. They burn them all.
They did. They burned the congressional official records. That's why there's very few official congressional records that predate. And in fact, somebody saved the Constitution, literally rolled it up and ran out of Washington, D.C. with it. That famous picture of George Washington, Mrs. Madison, I think her name is Dolly Madison, she grabbed it off the frame in the White House, took it out of the frame, and skedaddled and left the dinner set. They were going to have dinner with some important people. Dinner was there when the Brits walked in, sat down, ate the dinner intended for President Madison and Dolly and their guests. But this frame was missing, and that's why we still have that official portrait of George Washington. But they burned, people don't know this, they went to burn the Library of Congress. They also went to burn first the printing office, because they were still printing copies of this original 13th Amendment and sending it out. But they forgot that every state had their own archives, because every state considered themselves an independent nation just joining with this federation. In fact, the prior government during the Revolutionary War is called the Confederation of States. They didn't consider themselves federal, one big giant country of the United States. They consider themselves 13 independent countries. And as you read the preamble, in order to form a perfect union, right here on the flag behind me, we the people come together in order to form a more perfect union. They thought they were making it more perfect, but the attorneys got in there, the bankers established the second bank, Central Bank of the United States, and then Andrew Jackson, who fought the Battle of New Orleans in the War of 1812, he was proud of destroying the bank. He said that was his crowning achievement, to defeat these bankers, the same banking family, the Rothschilds. I'll say it, the Rothschilds, who today is Evelyn de Rothschild in just outside of London. His palace grounds are larger than Buckingham and the other one all put together. He doesn't mind paying taxes because he prints the money to pay the taxes. So if you can print your own money to pay your taxes, why do you care if you have to pay taxes? It doesn't cost him anything but ink and paper. And now they don't even do that. It's all electronic. He's in his 80s. His name is Evelyn de Rothschild. I personally believe he had something to do with the death of his wife that he divorced. That's my personal view. After doing a lot of research and being to England and talking to people who live in England, but they're afraid to speak out against the Rothschilds. So much for the Brits and their freedom of speech. Anyway, we're digressing, and we want to focus. Go ahead and run through your documents. He'll bring it up, Jackie.
Okay.
Mortgage foreclosure, almost all of them. And I should mention Valerie Lopez called me. She thinks there's a warrant out for arrest now. They're going after her. Someone tricked her into filing something. She thinks it was a mistake. And also coming on the show, and you can find that on YouTube, called 97% Fraud. She said the statement, and I stand by her statement. I think she's right. 97, even if you're not foreclosed on, your mortgage is probably fraudulent because they scan your note, the original one you signed, then they shred it. because they don't want to maintain warehouses of notes because they could be broken in and stolen. And whoever actually holds the paper document, he owns the mortgage. If you got the original note. That's what we're trying to say. And once they destroyed it, they have how much rights? No rights, Roger?
None.
None. No rights to foreclose on you.
You might let it. The shredding is done by the federal, the central bank, not the local bank.
You mean the discount bank, the federal discount bank?
The federal discount banks, where it goes. The local banks actually, once it's signed, they take it to the recorder's office. It sits there, and in 3 days it comes back to the bank of the broker, the bank, and then they sell that off to the Federal Reserve for an exchange of 10 to 1. They get 10 times the face value in money of credit from the central bank, and the central bank then they will hypothecate it, securitize it, sell it to brokers. We have one proof that here in the great state of California, the Department of Business Oversight in 2013 recognized the fact that there were people that were being defrauded that were investors in mortgage-backed securities. And as a result of that, they issued an order to a broker to cease and refrain from continuing the scam of selling multiple copies of the same mortgage. It's
A felony?
A felony. It's so horrific because it isn't enough for them to make a little bit. You got every time you turn around, they're getting paid for the insurance pays.
The insurance pay it, then they get 10 times the federal
right.
discount window, and you
they
work yourself to the bone for 30
And then
years.
they turn around and sell mortgage-backed securities to foreign entities and so forth. They chop them up, they put them in pools, securitization pools, and it just goes on and on and on. And you just gotta scratch your head and wonder, where is it gonna stop?
I think it'll stop when we, the people, as we tried to do February 21st, 2015, at the Crown Plaza, we're about 150 people, and I have to thank a certain David who picked up the tab for that event, gathered together to form our own grand juries. And I want to thank this guy, Anthony Williams, who was on the show just a Friday before we did that event. And he brought to light something, and I researched things, but I can't find everything. He brought together this decision of the majority of the U.S. Supreme Court written by Antoine Scalia, who just had a very mysterious death in Texas a few months back. But in '92, he wrote the majority opinion, I think it was 6-3, and he said, we the people, when we come together and form these 25-person grand juries, we the people are a fourth branch of government, fourth, and we're above the judicial, the executive, and the legislature. And we can indict even a judge, even a Supreme Court judge. We can indict anyone. But it takes 25 of us to come together, take the oath of office, elect a foreman, meet secretly, just like their phony grand juries, led by the nose by these illegal district attorneys who lost their citizenship when they joined the bar. We, the people, can form those grand juries correctly, and we can issue true bills of indictment, and we can arrest every judge who's ever been a member of the bar because he lost his citizenship, and if he didn't get it back again by applying for U.S. citizenship, he's still a non-citizen holding American office. So America's been infiltrated already by a mafia called the Bar Association, and they're worldwide. Now, I understand in the beginning it was to make sure their contracts would be enforceable around the world, and they thought it was a good idea. But now they've become so corrupt that even when Cindy Brown was in court the other day on the September 8th, the judge chuckled and said, yes, I see you're not a white woman, because the person who we believe is Craig Ronald Diamond, who forged a mortgage note and took out a bigger loan on her house that she didn't know anything about, he not only goes to prison, But the judge who stood there, and his name was Timothy J. Stafford. Stafford, I want you debenched and in prison. I'm going to read you really quickly. I gave her an affidavit because I was covering it as media. This is September 8th, and Department C66 of Orange County. And I said, I am William J. Wagner, declare I am an adult over the age of 18 years, do you think? And a resident of Santa Maria, California. I am an investigative journalist. The facts herein are personally known to this declarant and true and correct. If called as a witness to the same, I could and would competently testify thereto under oath. I was present in Department C66 of the Orange County Superior Court on September 8th, 2016 at approximately 2:30 p.m. and observed a legal case involving one Cindy Brown. Miss Brown is a gold medal recipient in women's basketball from the 1988 Olympics. The hearing involved a motion to quash service brought by Miss Brown as a defendant. The Orange County Superior Court judge assigned to hear the matter was one Timothy J. Stafford. All true, okay? Now, Miss Brown had retained the services of a female court reporter to transcribe the record of the hearing. I heard with my own ears Judge Stafford not allow Miss Brown to use that court report and said the court reporter in order to transcribe the record. He stated at the time of the hearing, what's wrong with our reporter? However, I did not observe at the hearing that the court had any reporter on hand to transcribe the hearing. He did not allow Miss Brown to use the female reporter she had brought. That is such a clear due process violation. He should be put under arrest. I'm talking about Stafford, the judge. He needs to be arrested, but I doubt if that crooked Tony Rackauckus, the DA of Orange County, would. So it's going to take we the people to form our own grand jury in Orange County. I don't live there, so I can't be a member, but I would come and testify when I'm sending this letter also to the presiding judge. Anyway, part 5, September 8th, Judge Stafford indicated that his ruling on the motion to quash service was under submission. Ms. Brown recently advised me that she had received notice from the court and her motion was denied. Now here's the problem, and I said I declare in a penalty of perjury of the laws of California that the foregoing is true and correct, and this declaration was executed on September 20th in Santa Maria, California. Okay, here's the problem. The federal bankruptcy judge had said prior to this, I will retain jurisdiction with everything to do with her property. Everything. And here's Judge Stafford saying, well, I'm taking jurisdiction and I'm going to go ahead with this unlawful detainer and kick you out of the house, even though I can see you're not a white woman because on the mortgage they checked off, oh, I'm with Cindy Brown. She's a white woman, check. And if you saw Cindy Brown in my YouTube... What's happened since the last time we talked? If people ought to know. They're sending people to your door to harass you?
Well, the debt collectors are coming in. They're using very aggressive tactics, trying to pull me into their jurisdiction, which is the unlawful detainer courts, where they're trying to allege that there's a debt that is owed and due by me, and I have not consent to that debt because it has never been proven. But not even so much that it's not been proven, it's
white, unless black is the new color of white. That was Cindy's joke, actually. So I'm sending this to the presiding judge. We need a grand jury in Orange County, 25 solid citizens, to come forward, take the oath of office, and issue, and I will come and testify on your grand jury, just what I put in this declaration, that this judge committed this felony in that court, in my opinion, and I was there personally. And I wasn't the only one. There were 3 other witnesses. So I want to let Jackie finish because she still didn't get through her, and she's come a long way. So I'm digressing. But it all comes together. We need to arrest the bankers. We need to arrest their attorneys. Anyone to join the bar, you should have to prove you're innocent.
I agree, 1,000%. And
go ahead with your story.
Okay, just wanted to say real quickly, a little cliche here. I think it's time to clean house, the White House, and like get rid of like probably 99% of the people that are in there and revote and put people in there and give the government back to we the people. and not to have these rules and go back to books that have been here since 1812 or whatever. Let's get legal. Let's get representation for the people out there. We showed you fraud and how obvious it is and how it's not being looked at and turned over and it's going in favor of the fraudulent attorneys. I wanted to show you an open-end mortgage deed that is a paid-for home that I had. This is a legal form, and what makes it absolutely legal, it is the original signatures when we signed for the house.
It's in blue ink.
It's in blue ink.
It's not a
It's
copy.
recorded. It's not a copy. It's a heck of an old thing. It is legal. So you can see the fraud clearly. This is the legal piece of paper. Blue ink, people, not black, blue. So when you see it not shrunk down, copied, should say fraud, fraud, fraud. Let's put some people in jail. Let's put some attorneys out of business. Let's take a lot of homes of a lot of judges. Let's confiscate assets. And let's get America back to America. And let us stand up and give us freedom of speech, whomever you are. And I just want to say one thing.
Would you tell how you got that?
Oh, tell them how you got that. How'd you get your
That was
original back?
returned after you had paid the.
After we had paid the, how I got this back?
Yes.
When the loan was paid for, like for example, if you have a car, and you pay your car off, and you get the title, you know, they release the lien, that they are no longer the lien holder, that your car title is free and clear. That is what they did to this mortgage instrument. They recorded it as paid in full, released of any control, and that this was mailed back to me as a free and clear document, that this belongs to me with my original, my husband and I's real signature that we signed when we first bought the home.
What
So,
date?
Yeah, what's the date on it?
let me see here. This was not that long ago. Let's see. This was recorded, looks like May 19th, 2004. And there's a long number on there with an original sticker. It's called an AFN number. You could learn a whole lot on the internet. I am no way, shape, or form an internet excellent typist, or I go on the internet, I put in small statements and phrases. You can learn a lot just from going in there, listening to cases, listening to shows like this, which I'm very grateful for me personally, that I am still working and searching, and I will be relentless. And when I heard from this gentleman here that last Friday, Deutsche Bank was raided, and they took their computers and their hardwares. It's probably a 115-story building, and they showed it on the news in Frankfurt, Germany. I didn't shed a tear. And when the top brass, whomever, of Deutsche Bank said, we're not paying it, and our Department of Justice, the German police, I mean, they're going to have to pay it. They said they might pay $4 billion. Could you see the Department of Justice knock on your door and say, Mr. Tanner, we want $300,000, and you say, well, I'll give you $100, and they go, okay. No, no. We want, you know what, $14 billion is low? Low. We want our houses back. We want our liens off. We want retroactive compensation. We want our respect and dignity that you are trying to take, that we, the people, are not going to let you do. So listen up, fraudulent banksters, corrupt judicial system, judges, we're coming for you. We're not giving up. If you're in there, hang tough. Not an easy thing to do at all. As I said many times, I've thrown papers in the air saying, I can't do this anymore. I go to these hearings, and as I said, I was telling you earlier that I would sit by myself at one table with a briefcase that had nothing in it. Nothing in it. And on the table to my right were 12, 13, sometimes 15 lawyers, all with laptops, all with Gucci briefcases, all ready to pound me on anything and everything. And the one document that the magistrate, because the judges were overwhelmed, wanted a copy, and I don't remember exactly what it was because it was very, very long ago. Well, I had a copy of it. So I kind of didn't know procedure, but I did raise my hand and say, well, I have it. None of them have it. All of a sudden you heard all their laptops go. They were very, very upset. So I had my little 10 minutes of
Victory?
Yes.
10 minutes
and
of
it
victory.
felt damn good, pardon my language. I don't mean to say that like that, but They will pound you. They will humiliate you. They've got their money. Plus, they're not, the modifications, don't do it. Don't do a modification on a fraudulent loan.
Like-
Don't be part of the crime.
Like Candace Jones
Candace
said in
Jones,
that
absolutely.
account, she says you can't modify fraud.
There you
All
go.
these loans are fraudulent.
Exactly.
And, you know, I just talked to a lady not too long ago. I think Roger talked to her too. And she said, oh, there's a 3-year limit on fraud. No, there isn't.
Statute of limitations.
When they put fraud into the court, there's 2 things that have no statute of limitation. One is murder, and the other is fraud on the court. But it's gotten so bad now, the judges are doing the fraud in the court. They're
Yes.
participating. And I'm not talking about when they go in their chambers and the 2 attorneys go back there and then one pays them $10,000, the other one pays them $20,000, and the guy that gives them $20,000 cash, he comes out and wins. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the judge knows the thing is fraudulent. He knows it's a copy, certified, full face, and a felony is sitting on his desk or in front of him. And he says, that's perfectly fine in my courtroom. No, it's not. That's a felony. We need, and that's what takes me to read you this thing of the original 13th Amendment. They knew this 200 years ago. Our American ancestors that fought in the Revolutionary War, that fought in the War of 1812. Andrew Jackson, who kicked the second central bank of the United States out of the United States, and it took them 60 years to come back. And they didn't call it the third central bank. They called it the Federal Reserve Bank. And it's not federal, it's a privately owned corporation by the Rothschild and their collection of bank gangsters. And they have no reserves. Now I'm going to tie something together that most of you probably would never think. Roger probably didn't even think of it. We used to have a pile of gold in Fort Knox, and everybody believed for decades that pile of gold was there. Well, it isn't. It's gone. They have a few bars of silver and a little thin wall of 1 brick of gold. But behind that is silver or nothing. Ron Paul went there once and he saw it and he said, is that all there is? Is that all there is? And he was a ranking congressman. He was only allowed to view it for a few minutes on a specific day. So where'd all the gold go that was taken out of circulation in the 1930s? It went to a thing called the Federal Gold Deposit at World Trade Center after that was built in the 70s. And before the building collapsed, all that gold had been stolen, taken out. And there was 1 truck left. Now, you can't fill up these security trucks that carry gold and cash. You can't pile the gold all the way to the ceiling because it is so heavy the tires would explode. They couldn't hold that weight. They can hold cash, it's just paper. But when you start putting gold bars, you can only put it about 1 foot or 2 high. You can't fill it up 5, 6 feet high. The truck wouldn't be able to, the engine wouldn't be able to pull it even in first gear. So they were moving that gold for weeks. And I spoke to one of those drivers. That gold was being taken out of there I went out there in 07 and I tracked down some people. Those of you who watch my shows back in 08, if you've been watching that long, you'll remember I spoke to that guy who got an FBI badge, and he ran the main crane. And I also spoke to other people, and one of them was a driver of one of those trucks. They were stealing the gold for 3 weeks prior to the collapse. So the planes had nothing to do with it. Islamic terrorists had nothing to do with it. They were the fall guy. They were the fall guy. Pure and simple, people. So there's where your gold went. It went up to upstate New York somewhere and dissipated in somebody's private reserve plantation somewhere. And I can't say who it was, but I talked to the drivers and they would make one drive from the gold deposit building, and when the building collapsed, there was 1 truck still found down there. And if you look back in the New York Times, there was a fist fight because when they got down to where that truck had been collapsed, there were some dead body parts. Some of them were firemen. And the police had been ordered by Rudy Giuliani, the mayor, to not let anybody near that gold truck. Too late. People saw the gold in the crushed truck. So there's proof. But did that come out in the 9/11 investigation?
No.
No way. Somebody tried to bring it up. His testimony was stricken. There is so much corruption from the presidency down. I'm not talking about Obama. I'm talking back in 01, 02. Who was president? George W. Bush, the guy that couldn't speak 3 sentences in a row without stumbling and getting his words garbled. I'll give that to Obama. At least he's a smooth talker. He may not be honest and totally correct and upstanding, but he can speak 3 sentences in a row without reading it off a teleprompter. But George W. belongs in Bush. And I have a YouTube clip out called The Arrest of George W. Bush Soon. When we, the people, finally have enough of having our homes stolen by crooks, I think we're going to see some amazing arrests. There's already an international warrant out for George W. Bush. He can't go to several countries in Europe. He had to cancel trips because they told him you're going to be arrested if you go to that country. Our president, former president, could not go to those places. Anyway, I digress. But these things all come together. The crooked attorneys, the crooked banks, the disappearing of the gold, and now they're going to try to collapse the currency. And when the currencies collapse, people, they're going to come up with a new world currency. And they'll say, well, it's either that or we all go into a worldwide depression for a decade. Remember the 1930s? You don't want that. So just let this private banker group give you a world currency, and then they'll have a reset and decide what everybody's currency's worth.
Wow.
That's what they're planning. I know what they're doing already because I've spoken to people in Europe that are already clued in, and they're wondering why Americans just can't get it. They can't see it coming. Many Europeans already see it coming. They see what's coming. Anyway, I digress. And you got to run through this because we're down to like 15 minutes.
Can I say something real quick?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
One thing people, they probably some questions about this open-ended mortgage that is an original that was returned to Jackie. It's not normal. Most banks sell off to the Federal Reserve. And to make it more understandable here, this is a federal credit union. It's called Hard Money Bank that they keep in-house. Now, there are other types of financial services that I run into. And one that's kind of interesting that I'd imagine being here in the great state of California you'd never see is Amish. Amish people are a kind, loving, contrary to some people's thoughts, people. And we should start recognizing the Amish community because their numbers double every 7 years. They're becoming huge in the Midwest, Ohio especially. And their word is good from a handshake. They don't need this type of paperwork, attorneys. They say this is the way it is, that's the way it is. And they have their bank. And the one I know of that I deal with is Amish Community Bank. Now, I don't deposit anything, and I don't have any checks, but they write a check that has no routing number, no account number, and it goes through. Unbelievable. But our future of the money and the money situation is bill of exchange. This mortgage here was with a bank, probably not the norm. So if you think that you're going to get your mortgage back when you pay your house off, good luck. So you probably never see it. Now, what happens to that mortgage? You ever think about that? Well, it's like a song a long time ago about the guy couldn't get off the NBA or whatever it was.
Got to make it quick, Roger. Running out of time.
The train couldn't get off of it. That mortgage is being circulated and resold and resold and resold and resold and resold. So when you pay your mortgage off, they're still making money off your mortgage.
Wow. Wow.
Something.
If that isn't a crime in progress and continuing. All right, Jackie, we still got a few minutes. You want to finish? You had several things you wanted to get out here before
Okay.
we run out of time.
Just a
Go.
few minutes here. I'll go as
Go.
quickly as I can regarding the Constitution. The facts are simple. If you don't know your rights, you don't have any. If you get a chance, whether it's on the internet, whatever, if you're at the library, or if you're on whatever, read a little bit of the Constitution. I mean, it's really there to help you. The most important thing about the Constitution is the importance of reading it. You must read the Constitution and understand what is physically involved. You must know your rights and timely assert them. Law is all about time, and everything is of the essence. If you have a court hearing, if you have to file a judgment or whatever, or if you have a summons that is sent to your home. In Ohio, we have 28 days to respond. You don't respond within a certain amount of time, so reading things and maybe reading them 2 or 3 times, but definitely, this has been extremely interesting to me. I didn't know about it.
You didn't know about the original
No,
13th Amendment?
I don't think you stop learning until you're 6 feet under, and I don't think you should stop learning. And I learned so much today, and I want to thank you for that. I did not know
You're
that.
welcome.
And I want to say, as far as the FBI, I have been there. I have visited the FBI area in Cleveland. Not the greatest visit I ever had, and this was early on, 2006, when this was pretty much, just starting. I almost thought they were going to arrest me. I think they thought, what is this girl doing with the briefcase? She's a girl. There's no attorney. We don't do fraud, and banks are good. That is kind of the general consensus. I will say one thing. My father was a stout veteran, and I remember sitting and waiting for someone to speak to me about this fraud. And I remember, and I'm so proud to see that flag over there, the FBI building, which was a humongous building. 50 times as big as this. No flag. Anywhere. The Federal Bureau main headquarters in Cleveland, Ohio. I asked the gentleman that let me in, excuse me, where might your flag be? And he responded, it was out to be dry cleaned. And I said, you don't have, immediately another one to put up? My father gave his life for that flag. A lot of veterans still are in active duty, more than willing to give it. You have a flag at home, put it up. And my dad used to say to me when he was alive, the only time the flag comes down is when you're under communism. A lot of people still, past, present, and are now still, and as that flag hangs there, I'm a very, very proud person to see that. So just giving, kudos to all the veterans that protect us, that protect our rights to get these banksters, to the right to be heard. Freedom of speech from this gentleman, education from this gentleman, that to say what we think. Someone that, I don't have any law education, and maybe 20 years ago, they thought it was a joke for a woman to come forward. That if you didn't have an attorney, you were nobody or nothing. Times changing, ladies. Times are changing. I am proof positive. I wish you all good luck. It is not a smooth road to follow. Join up, get with teams, get with people that you know. Persist, and let's see some people in jail, a lot of them, especially the higher-ups. Let's put some people in jail. Let's take some assets of theirs and return America back to we the people.
Especially the judges. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Jackie Wiegand.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Now, we have a statement by a former member of the Bar Association. And I think he's worth hearing because he's not a member of the Bar Association anymore. He's got a statement. We'll go to a little bit of that. I think we can get it all if we hurry.
Daniel Dijak has a statement. What has you got to say, Dan, about Alex Kaczynski, former presiding judge of the 9th Appellate Federal District?
Well, Circuit Judge Kaczynski is still on the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals, but he was replaced approximately a year and a half ago by a gentleman called Sidney R. Thomas out of Billings, Montana. And one reason he was replaced was that I accused him of committing acts of obstruction of justice whereby he wouldn't let me file pleadings, including a disqualification motion of him in one of my cases, major case in federal court, and whereby I accused him of taking bribes from financier Charles Schwab. So when that came out and I revealed it to no other than Chief Justice Roberts of the U.S. Supreme Court and others, he soon thereafter was replaced as Chief Judge by Sidney Thomas. In addition, I alerted Senator Grassley of the Senate Judiciary Committee about that. And I am now suing him in the Northern District Court in San Francisco for his corruption.
This is the same Alex Kaczynski who had his clerk send me a request to pay a filing fee to hear the motion on Judge Hoole's bankruptcy court in Riverside, and I refused to pay the fee. I refused to pay the fee, file a fee waiver form that they sent me, because it would have given up the First Amendment privilege to freedom of press without expense. And I'm just wondering what is going through Alex Kaczynski's mind. I'd like to interview you, Alex Kaczynski, on camera. Well, that's it for William Wagner. That's all I got here for you today. I hope you found this interesting, because I think Daniel's got a real couple of interesting lawsuits about to percolate through the court soon. See ya.
Notice of fraud. Wasn't that interesting from Daniel Dieshek? We may have more from him later, but things are percolating I can't talk about right now. Notice of fraud and intent to litigate. This is my constructive notice to you that I have discovered extensive fraud in regard to the mortgage and transactions associated with it on certain real property as noted below. It has come to my attention that you are involved in an attempted foreclosure on my property at 123 Main Street, any city, state, where documented fraud has occurred. This is your constructive notice that evidence in this matter has been personally delivered to the FBI and Secret Service for an investigation and prosecution, resulting from violations of federal law, including, but not limited to, counterfeiting and conspiracy to defraud, as outlined in the attached documents, information including your identity, and what appears to be your participation in these violations of federal law has been provided to the above-named federal agencies and local authorities for investigation and prosecution. If you were not previously aware of the above-mentioned fraudulent and criminal activity and may be an innocent party in this matter, I would urge your utmost cooperation with the authorities investigating this matter, as well as ceasing all of your activities related to the ongoing foreclosure action. If, however, you choose to move forward in any manner and participate in any way in the attempted foreclosure action referenced above, you will demonstrate your complicity and willingness to be a party to the counterfeiting and conspiracy to defraud. Now that you have been noticed and will become subject to potential criminal prosecution and civil litigation for damages, you have hereby been legally noticed of this fraud and your involvement, whether knowingly or unknowingly. You therefore may make no further claim of a lack of knowledge of these criminal activities and your participation therein, which would absolve you of their liability and culpability. This is my intent to pursue any and all legal remedies against any and all participants regarding these fraudulent acts. The bonding companies of those involved will be notified of claims regarding civil matters. Conduct yourself accordingly. Take notice. This is but one part of a substantial nationwide investigation by law enforcement and the mortgage industry, and complicit fraud therein. And it is some internet document. It is not some internet document that was found or printed out and sent to you as some kind of scare tactic. This is a very real, serious matter that is being and will be pursued, with all those who are identified as being complicit in any fraud being prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and civil actions taken to recover damages. Signed, your name. I want to thank you for watching Take Back America, people. Roger Tanner on my right, and the beautiful blonde from Ohio, Jackie Wiggins. I'm sorry I don't have time to tell you about the CPS being sued in Los Angeles County for the next 4 weeks, and I will be watching. And I'm telling you, CPS people have admitted they signed under penalty of perjury stuff they had no personal knowledge of to take away a 15-month-old baby. More on that on my next show.
Let's make America great again.
You can make America great again. No one person, but all of we the people can.
The team.